Hey everyone, welcome to our YouTube debut here on the Bear Clawcast with Grant Winsauer. I am your lead host, and I am a journalism major at U of I right now. Journalists always seem to have appeared on podcasts or have their own podcasts. So I have had a verbal podcast the last 6 months, but I figured that it was about time that I get used to do it in front of a camera. So this is our debut on YouTube, and sitting next to me is my great co-host Jack Rodi. How you doing today, Jack?
Good. Hi, guys. Nice to finally be on a screen instead of just you hearing our beautiful voices. I, like Grant, am going to be a senior at the University of Illinois this fall. Grant and I had the pleasure of meeting this past semester at school and kind of bonded over our love for football and started doing this podcast together. So I hope for those of you who the first time listening today, you enjoy what we have to say and find what we have to say interesting and want to listen again.
For those who are listening on Apple Podcasts, that is fine as well. But if you want to see me and Jack talk on screen, look up the Bear Clawcast on YouTube and be sure to like and subscribe so we can bring you as much Bears content as possible. With this being our first YouTube video, please bear with us. And yes, that is a pun intended, as me and Jack are still getting used to being in front of the camera. Um, we're going to give you a little bit of an overview on what our videos will look like for the next foreseeable future. During the season, we will have two videos a week for you guys. One where we will preview the Bears matchup on Saturday, and then one on Monday where we will have our reaction to the Bears game, win or loss. Hopefully, with them being more wins than losses. We have a lot of things to discuss for our first YouTube video, so let's get into it. The first episode of Bears Hard Knocks kicked off with a banger, in my personal opinion. The first shot was Caleb Williams' draft phone call, which I thought was really cool. But I would have also liked to see Rome Odunze's phone call in there. Because we also did draft him at number 9 as well. But there were a lot of things that I really enjoyed. First off, I loved that Caleb's intro music was the Bulls intro during the Michael Jordan era. What were your thoughts on that, Jack?
Yeah.
You watched that as well.
The second that Bulls intro music came on, I immediately thought of you. Grant and I have had a lot of conversations. Not the biggest basketball guy, unless you're talking 90s Bulls basketball. So I knew that was going to hit home for you right away. But I won't talk too much more in the episode until we get a little bit more into it. But at least the start of it, I do agree with you. I did enjoy how they did it off.
Sure. We also got to see Nick Saban talk to Matt Eberflus, our head coach, about Caleb Williams, and he gave Flus some good advice, in my personal opinion. The advice that I like the most is always stand behind the quarterback. That was a little surprising for me with Eberflus being a defensive-minded head coach. You would think that Flus would leave that to the offensive staff. However, I see Saban's advice as a good thing because Flus can help him recognize certain coverages and other things that other defenses run. So I thought that was a good piece of advice. I saw two things in the episode that I don't think either of us expected. The first thing was the DJ Moore contract extension. I thought that we would eventually see it, but I didn't expect it for the first episode, just because we didn't get any notice that was happening before it happened. What were your thoughts on how that was included in the first episode?
Yeah, I know we kind of touched on our last podcast just about how that did come a little bit out of nowhere. And the way it was portrayed in the episode, it was kind of the same way. It was very DJ and the Bears front office didn't make a huge deal out of it. He signed the contract literally in the middle of a practice when Poles and his agents called him up, the Rosenhaus. I thought it was awesome, though. I think that just kind of speaks to who DJ is as a guy. Ever since he's gotten to Chicago, he's been all work and not a lot of talk. And that's kind of, as a little bit of a more old school look at football, kind of what you like to see out of your star players. You don't need all the extracurricular stuff going on. DJ, you know, you're going to get in, week out. So I love to see that he's going to be here for the next 6 years, hopefully.
Hopefully. I also did not expect them to include footage from the Hall of Fame game. Now, Jack, you might have a different opinion on that, since so many Bears were being inducted into the Hall of Fame. But what were you surprised that was in there, or
not super surprised? I mean, I was a little bit doubtful just because there wasn't as much to talk about because the game got called after the third quarter. But I do think it was important to highlight a lot of what Hard Knocks is highlighting those guys who are on the borderline of making the roster. So I think highlighting that Colin Johnson storyline from that preseason game, as well as the Brett Rippon storyline, because both of them had outstanding games. I think that's all of what Hard Knocks is about, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of those types of players in the Bears roster that otherwise you wouldn't really know about.
Now, the thing I wonder is, since that game was stopped in the third quarter, is if the fourth quarter would have been played, would we have won? I mean, we were up by 4 when the game was called, and at that point, third stringers were in the game, and, third stringers don't really contribute that much, but do you think we would have won if the game was played out?
I mean, who knows? Because it's also, you got to think the Texans have their third stringers in there. It's really just at that point, battle of who has a little bit more depth on their practice squad for the season. But who knows? I'll take the win and move on. Yeah. I know sports books didn't pay out any bets on that game, though, I heard. So
that kind of stinks.
Win or loss. People who bet on the Bears to win, people who bet on the Texans to win, no one got paid out. Everyone got their bet refunded. So
that does stink a little bit. It was announced today by head coach Matt Eberflus that Caleb Williams and the starters who are available to them will play in the first preseason game against the Bills. As you can see, me and Jack both have Bears t-shirts on. I was planning on wearing my Caleb Williams jersey, but I saved that just in case he played today, or played on Saturday, because that just feels like the right time to wear it. Eberflus didn't exactly specify how many plays they will be in the game, but he did say that they have a certain plays that they want the starters to run. And it was specified by Bills head coach Sean McDermott that the Bills starters will play a quarter of the first preseason game. So I wouldn't be surprised if it is similar for the Bears, but I also could expect a little less than the first quarter. But no matter what, I think me and Jack can speak for all Bears fans that we are excited to see this new offense. What would you like to see from the team during their first preseason game, Jack?
Assuming that the starters do play, the only thing I truly care about is everybody stays healthy. Because especially with a rookie quarterback early on in the preseason, whatever reps Caleb does get is going to be somewhat of a learning process. But already having a little bit of issues with the offensive line staying healthy during camp, we have still no idea what Nate Davis is going to end up contributing to this team. I think the most important thing, other than getting some work in, running those plays you talked about Eberflus wanting them to run, is go in, get your work, but above all, stay healthy.
Yes.
Caleb, utilize that slide you guys worked on in practice for kind of to slip and slide out there again. Do what Brett Rippon was talking about. Sliding practice paid off. So, hey, that's all I really, really care about. Get everyone healthy in a week 1 and go from there.
But can we actually touch on that? Because when I watched that slide demonstration, people on Twitter were saying that the slide didn't look that safe, and that people began to worry for a second. Were you like that, or
no? I mean, I get what people are saying. You never want someone to hurt themselves doing a dumb thing, but Caleb's an athlete. All those guys are athletes and have been their whole lives. I grew up playing baseball where you slide every 2 seconds in the sport, and what Caleb did is pretty much just a basic pop-up slide that you would do when you're stealing second base 8 out of 10 times if you got the bag stolen, so I'm really not too worried about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too worried either. Everyone out there that is so concerned about the injuries on the offensive line, I think we need to relax a little bit about it, because we still have a month until we kickoff game against the Texans. It was reported that the starting offensive line in practice yesterday and today was Braxton Jones at left tackle, Tammy Jenkins at left guard, Coleman Shelton at center, Ryan Bates at right guard, and Darnell Wright at right tackle. And if I was a betting man, it seems more and more likely that this offensive line combination will be the starting offensive line come week 1. I say this because even though we have Nate Davis, he seems to always have something going on where he will either do stuff during individual drills, but is never part of team drills, and he needs to be a part of team drills if he wants to play. Now, it was announced by Eberflus today that on Sunday, Nate Davis did re-aggravate one of his injuries, so he's considered week to week. But at this point, I think the starting offensive line that has been practicing should be your starting offensive line come week 1. What are your thoughts on that, Jack?
Yeah, sort of something we touched on a little bit, but obviously I hope the best for Nate Davis. I really hope he comes back healthy and can contribute to this team. I'm never wishing an injury on any player, let alone someone that we hope can contribute to our favorite team. But that being said, like you said, continuity is a huge part of offensive line play, and with Nate Davis not taking part in a lot of these team drills early on in training camp the same way he didn't last year, if the 5 guys you mentioned before that are planning on starting the game Saturday are healthy and ready to go for week 1, I don't think it makes much sense to insert Nate Davis there and mess up the chemistry that these guys are building together.
Absolutely.
But I know you mentioned not to overreact. I am a little bit worried just because we've been scorned by the offensive line in years past. I know this is a little bit better of a group, more talent, more consistency year over year, and an upgraded center position with Coleman Shelton. But part of me just worries a little bit because, above all, like I mentioned before, I want Caleb to stay healthy.
And let me be clear. I'm not saying let's, throw all the worry out the window. We still have some worry to spare, but, I think people are taking this to a little bit of an extreme level.
It's not a chicken little sky is falling type scenario.
Yes. I mean, so next we're going to talk about the NFL Top 100 list that finished up recently, and the Bears had a few players on it, with Montez Sweat being ranked at 81 or 82, and Keenan Allen being ranked at 51. Now, it's important to note that Keenan Allen wasn't on the Bears when, this list was being made, but, him at 51 and seeing the Bears logo next to it seems pretty awesome. This is great, but there were a few players on the Bears that were well deserved to be on this list that were left off of it, and honestly, it feels criminal after the seasons that they both had. The players that we are talking about are wide receiver DJ Moore and standout corner Jalen Johnson. Moore caught 96 passes on 136 targets for 1,364 yards and 9 total touchdowns, 8 of those being receiving and 1 of those being rushing. For reference, Allen, who was ranked 51, had 1,243 yards with 7 touchdowns. Allen definitely deserves to be on this list, but I thought Moore would be ranked somewhere in the 40s if he made the list. What are your thoughts on DJ Moore not making the list, Jack?
Yeah, I truly don't understand it very much. DJ Moore dealt with subpar quarterback play for most of the year last year. Justin was a little bit inconsistent when healthy, and he was hurt for a lot of the season and had Tyson Bagent throwing the ball to him, and he still put up, like you talked about, at 1,300 yards. And we remember the game against Washington where he was absolutely off. Just based on that game, I mean, this guy was undoubtedly a top 10 wide receiver last year based off of production. And to not make this list is just a little bit confusing to me. I know it's primarily player voted, and a lot of these guys don't get the chance to watch every team. So when you guys got guys like DJ Moore who played on a non-contending team last year, they can kind of get lost in the shuffle. But like you mentioned with Keenan Allen, a little bit more name recognition. But the fact that he's 50 spots higher, and DJ Moore, they released a honorable mention of the next 5 to 10 guys who didn't make it.
Even make that
And
either.
DJ Moore didn't even make that either. So I just don't really get the disconnect there. But hey, at the end of the day, it's a list. I'll take the production he gives us on the field. So
Absolutely. But honestly, the one that was more disrespectful was the fact that Jalen Johnson wasn't ranked. Johnson had 4 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery, and 10 passes defended. To some people, that may not seem like enough to be a top 100 player in the league. But let me tell you who shouldn't have made this list but did. And this is not just because I'm a Bears fan. Okay, it's a little bit just because I'm a Bears fan, but it's not all completely because of it. Aaron Rodgers made the top 100 list with him being ranked 92, and he didn't even play 5 snaps before he was out for the rest of the year. For a player that only played 4 snaps to make the top 100 list versus a guy who played 14 games and produced at a very high level to not make it just feels criminal because, Johnson got a 4-year extension worth $76 million from the Bears after a season like that, and he is well deserved of that contract. What are your thoughts on Jalen Johnson not making it?
yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say. It's just silly. Second team All Pro, number 1 PFF rated corner, complete stud last year. They just stopped completely throwing to his side of the field by the end of the year, and that resulted in Tyreek Stevenson getting a lot of balls thrown at him, getting a lot of picks. But I just don't see in any world where Jalen Johnson is not a top 100 player currently in football, and I think that's a mistake.
I agree. So Keenan Allen talked to the media on Tuesday and said that he had yet to get a catch against his new teammate Jalen Johnson. And actually, his first catch came yesterday in one-on-one practice. And if anyone watched the Pro Bowl from this past year, or whatever you call the Pro Bowl now, I don't know if anyone would actually call it a Pro Bowl because it's just like
Flag football
and mini games. But Johnson prevented Keenan Allen from making the game-winning touchdown catch. If that doesn't show that Johnson will come back with vengeance, I don't know what will. The same thing goes for Moore because he got over 1,300 yards with middle-of-the-pack quarterback play, and that's not me taking a jab at Justin Fields. It's more coaching and supporting cast. In one season with the Bears, he showed that he should be one of the highest paid players in the wide receiver category. Now, I do believe that will change when wide receivers like Brandon Ayuk and other receivers get their new deal and produce well. But I am excited with all these new weapons that Williams has around him, and I still suspect DJ Moore to be Caleb Williams' best friend when it comes to looking for someone on third down or short routes. But that is something that Keenan Allen also specializes in, so it could go either way. But I am excited. What are your thoughts on that, Jack?
Yeah, 2 things. One little side note: the Pro Bowl to me kind of just seems like a football version of Mario Party now, with all the freaking mini games. You ever play Mario Party? That was
no, but I definitely heard of it.
Yeah. Anyways, I think what you mentioned at the end there about both Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, they were 2 of the better chain movers in the entire NFL last year and the last couple years, honestly. What I mean by that, for those that don't know, is on third down, no matter how long the distance is, you need to get that first down. You need that 10, 12 yards. You know exactly who you're looking to because those guys always have a knack for getting a yard behind the first down marker, somehow making a catch and moving the chains and keeping the offense out there. And to have 2 guys like that now, as well as having a deep threat in Rome, and it's not like DJ's not a deep threat. We saw what he do last year. I just think the sky's the limit for this offense this year.
And I mean, it's gonna be hard for opposing defenses to defend against both of them, because you can't double DJ and leave Keenan, one-on-one, or vice versa, because no matter what, most likely they'll, get open. So I mean, this season is going to be exciting for us Bears fans, and I can't wait for it. I kind of wish that the season was here, but I am also happy that it's not, because I am enjoying my last couple weeks of summer before I get back to being a college student. Some of the Bears Madden ratings have been released, and the top four don't disappoint in my personal opinion. The top four are Keenan Allen and 90, and then Jalen Johnson, DJ Moore, and Kevin Byard are all 89s, which I think are very good ratings for some of the guys that are considerably older, with Keenan Allen and Kevin Byard, but their Madden rating is based on their production, not their age. Both top drafted rookies in Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze are 76 overall. I think Rome Odunze's rating is spot on, but I think Williams should at least be a 78, because he was talked about as the next generational quarterback. I understand that rookies never get rated really high, and everyone seems to be against the Bears. But when the number one quarterback is looked at as the next big thing, I think he should be higher than a 76. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think for the first top four guys you mentioned, I think DJ, Jalen Johnson, and Keenan Allen all should fall in that 89 to 92 range.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Byard, I'm a little surprised they still have as an 89. He's a couple years removed from his first team All-Pro in Tennessee. A little bit up and down last year after he got traded to the Eagles. Their secondary was not very good towards the end of the year. But I do agree with you on Caleb. I'm not quite as well versed on what rookie quarterbacks have been rated in the past.
The only higher rookie quarterback that was actually 78 was Trevor Lawrence.
Okay, yeah, and I feel like Trevor Lawrence and Caleb, like you mentioned, have been kind of lumped together as like the true, like since Andrew Luck, the true generational guys to have come out of these drafts.
I agree with you.
So it does surprise me a little bit that they didn't rank Caleb as a 78 at least. But I mean, there's a lot of room to grow throughout the season.
Oh, absolutely.
I would hope that he will only go up from here. Fingers crossed, but I can't really get too mad at Madden ratings. Like I mentioned, we talked about adding this to the podcast, and I was like, it don't really matter, but people care. So just figured we talk about it a little.
I mean, now it's important to note that most people, when it comes to playing Madden, or at least a lot of people that I know, play Madden Ultimate Team more than franchise, and these rookie ratings are in franchise, not Madden Ultimate Team. But you probably will see these players that we mentioned get similar overalls to what they are in franchise. But still, I mean, I play Madden Ultimate Team more than franchise, but that's just me. DJ Moore's contract breakdown was released recently, and this deal was a very smart deal for the Bears and their future. His cap hit for 24 is 7.2 million. His cap hit for 2025 is 24.9 million. 26 through 28 is 28.5 million, with a potential buyout in 2026. But let me clarify. I hope that does not happen. I want him to stay for this whole contract. And in 2029, it's a $24.5 million cap hit, non-guaranteed. And with this contract signing, the Bears actually have $21.054 million in cap space. And this gives them money to potentially sign Yannick Ngakoue as a more sure thing across from Montez Sweat if they don't see enough out of rookie Austin Booker in the next few weeks. But it could also mean that they have enough money to keep Keenan Allen around for a few more seasons after this one. But it's worth noting, I don't think that they will open up talks with him until mid-season, because they want to see how he performs and make sure that he can stay healthy. What are your thoughts about the contract breakdown for DJ Moore's?
Yeah. So is that buyout after 2026 or before? Do you know? I would have to assume after.
I would assume so.
I should get at least.
I got this from Twitter, so
Okay.
it's not like I don't know exactly.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it's just interesting to look at the difference between football and baseball contracts. Like, I was reading something about Bobby Witt Jr., who's the shortstop for the Kansas City Royals, top 5 player in baseball now. Last year, he signed a 10-year, I think around $270 million contract. He has an opt-out clause, like his own opt-out clause for 4 straight years after he turns 30. And then there's a team option after that. Everything in baseball is guaranteed. And then you have someone like DJ Moore who's been putting out that kind of production. And while a lot of this money is guaranteed, I think it was 82 mil. It is just interesting how we see how teams can maneuver the cap in the NFL in different ways where there is a hard cap and how they can incorporate these different cap rules, different buyouts. But kind of going along that point, you mentioned the cap room we have available for this year. I kind of hope it might be a pipe dream that we go out and make another trade for someone rather than sign Yannick Ngakoue, just because I think with that extra cap, I mean, the dream scenario would be to somehow pry Matthew Judon away from the Patriots, which I don't think will happen just because of their turnover in coaching staff, and they want to at least have some type of culture in New England still. But that would be something I would kind of hope to look at if I was Ryan Poles, and I trust that he will. I trust that he'll somehow fill that. And if not, we'll piece it together with Austin Booker and other guys at edge, so I'm not too worried about that.
I agree with what you say. I just think that, if Austin Booker doesn't necessarily show that he can be, that next star or good pass rusher in the next month, I think that if we gave, Yannick Ngakoue maybe. He signed a $10 million deal last year.
Probably take like 8.
So if we could get him for 7 or 8 just for this year, and me, I mean, one thing that I like about Ryan Poles compared to Ryan Pace is he does, use the trade deadline to find people, where Ryan Pace was always the guy that gave away too much. I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved when we had Khalil Mack, but that was a time where we had not the greatest GM in Chicago history.
Yeah.
And let me just say, I think Ryan Poles is quite the opposite of that. So I would be up for either. If we sign Yannick to something, or if we wait until the trade deadline, which is actually week 9 and not week 8 anymore.
Oh, is it?
Because I don't know why it was switched, but it was switched to a week later.
Was it? This is the first year they're doing that? I was thinking maybe just because of the 17-game schedule, but that's been around for a couple years now. So I don't know. Maybe they just adjusted it because of that retroactively.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The Chicago Bears have been the main attraction when it comes to topics being talked about on shows like Good Morning Football. And I think me and Jack can speak for all Bears fans out there. We are here for it because we haven't been this excited about our football team since probably the 2018 season, when we did have Khalil Mack and that ferocious defense. But when I think about it, how well rounded the team was on offense and defense, I still would take this year's version because we are a lot younger on defense and we have a lot more proven talent on the offensive side of the ball. And when you have a rookie quarterback like that, proven talent on your offense to help him out is definitely what you need. And I mean, I can't wait to see this team in action come Saturday, or just come season time. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think it's been 6 years since that team, 6 years since the double doink and all those high hopes of Trubisky. I think Trubisky ended up being the most bet on player to win the MVP the year following in 2019 before he just went off the rails. But I'm just very excited for the first time in a long time for the Bears prospects this season. I think they have a legitimate shot to make a push in the NFC. I don't want to be too overzealous and say they're Super Bowl contenders, but I think they are very much going to be competitive in the NFC this year and hopefully gain some much needed experience for the playoffs going forward. Because like you mentioned, this is a young core that they're going to have locked up for a long time. We talked about that last podcast, about how good of a job Ryan Poles has done in surrounding the core around Caleb Williams. So going into this season with an open mind, being optimistic for once, which is hard for us Bears fans sometimes, but hey, who knows? New year, new team.
Yeah. I just have to mention this because I saw it on Twitter a couple of days ago, but a couple of days ago, Cairo Santos was working on kicks and he hit the crossbar, but it went in, and a fan literally yelled out, "Times are changing," because and that's a reference to Cody Parkey's double doink. And since we were talking about how exciting the 2018 season was and how excited the 2018 team was, that was during 2018 when we lost the playoff matchup to the Eagles, who ended up winning the Super Bowl that year.
No, that was the year before.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, that was the year. The year we lost in 2018 was the year Atlanta blew that 28-3 lead, I believe.
Oh,
No, that was the year the Rams lost in the Super Bowl. No, because the Eagles won the year prior. Because I know the Eagles lost that next matchup to the Saints because Alshon Jeffrey had a drop. But I'm trying to think, was 2018 the year the Rams made it and lost, or was it the year the Falcons blew it?
you can look at my phone.
Sorry, I want to give you accurate information.
No, it's okay. No, yeah, we want to give you accurate information here. I'm sorry that we're looking at our phones, but Eagles Super Bowl.
The Eagles won in 2018, but it was the 2017-18 season. 2018-19 was the Rams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit messed up on me. But they didn't Nick Foles start that game?
Yes, he did.
That's why I thought of that.
Wentz either got hurt or benched again, and they brought in Foles to start.
That's why I thought of that, because Nick Foles was the Super Bowl MVP that year, and I remember Nick Foles starting that game against the Bears.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just remember the Eagles should have very well made another Super Bowl run if Alshon Jeffrey had a very bad drop, and I think a third down against the Saints, or maybe a fourth down that lost in that game. But anywho, Alshon Jeffrey, former Bear.
Yep. I think that's going to be our show slash podcast for the day. We will be back giving you a recap of the game on Tuesday afternoon, because I have something going on Sunday and Monday. So we will see you guys Tuesday to give our reaction to the game, and we hope you enjoyed our debut on YouTube. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, remember to follow and share. And please bear with us. We will get better with this thing being on camera. It's our first time, so we got to do it a couple times before we get good at it. This is Grant Winsauer and Jack Rodi signing off on the Bear Clawcast. Have a good one, everybody.
I feel like we got to close it with a claw.
Oh yeah, that's a good.
I know with the claw to close.
And just
YouTube.
And if anyone is wondering how we got, or how I came up with that name, it's because of Caleb and Rome. They did that on draft night, and it just it's everyone's doing it now, so it's a thing.